Well, the only way for us to make it is, talking about make America great. Now we have to turn into make Africa great. The one way for us to make Africa great is for us to produce our minerals before they are exported, so that we can actually create jobs. Because the issue is that once we remain a dumping ground, we will never be able to create jobs. And, I'm of the believer that once you continue to import, you are importing poverty and exporting jobs out. So the real issue for us is that now President Trump has actually said the face, where he's saying make America great or America first. So since it is America first, we should also say Africa first. We should try and create jobs. The real reason why we have actually not flown as much as Asia, Asians, they have quite a lot of old entrepreneurs, old money, and majority of them, they believe in their own continent, be it from Thailand, Indonesia, and other areas. So most of them, they invest their money at home. Both people who have made money legally, people who have made money illegally, the money doesn't leave the countries. They invest it there.
So you're saying that's what we're lacking in Africa, right?
Yeah, well, in Africa, the issue is that, yes, some people, they do make money legally. Some of them, they make their own money illegally. But majority of people, they take the money out of the continent. So if I'm not investing at home, how do I convince somebody to come and partner with me and invest and make Africa great? It's difficult. When Trump always say, okay, fine, make America great, what he's trying to do is actually trying to create jobs. Some people might not agree with me, but I fully agree with him because I've been through that route where now we try to do industries and they keep saying that, no, open up your market. When you open up your market, it's like you now going to bed, you open up your windows, you go to bed, you are not going to be, you won't be able to have a good sleep because you'll be disturbed by mosquitoes. So, when you now say you open up this thing, you don't have what it takes to allow every single damn thing to be dumped into your own market. That is what you call a fair competition. That's also what you call dumping. Okay, because if I have excess, I will take it at half price to go and dump in somebody's market. So I make sure that the country does not produce what they need.
So what I find fascinating with what you're saying, because one way that people are describing things, it's like becoming a lot more protectionist, which is bad. But actually the way you're saying it is that we shouldn't be a dumping ground, and there's a distinction between the two things.
Let me give you an example. He has done quite more than that. People maybe know about the steel, aluminium, where he ended off, he tried 25% tariff, and then later on he said, no, 50%. If he doesn't do that, American steel industry will shut down.
It's true.
The two things that don't allow industries to thrive, especially in Africa, there are two things. One is lack of electricity. Second is inconsistencies in government policies.
So let's talk about the policies that need to change. And I actually go back to the way your cement business flourished. And then President Obasanjo took, I think, what many people consider as a bold decision. And it wasn't just a tariff on imported cement at the time. It was quite interesting because it was about backward integration if you do import.
That's right.
So, and I really want to unpack that, because I wonder if you can scale that idea across other sectors and whether that's workable as a policy.
Well, as a policy, what President Obasanjo did was actually, great. I mean, Obasanjo at that time when he was president, I think maybe he sleeps about 2-3 hours. He called me 4:30 in the morning and asked me that, hey, look, Aliko, I've checked. Nigeria now is about number 2 in import of cement in the world, after US. I'm not going to allow that to continue. How do we address this issue? I said, okay, fine. Let me, Mr. President, remove my Dangote cap and put Nigeria's cap, and I will tell you what to do. Maybe, why don't you say, okay, let's go and do backward integration. If you don't set up a factory, you cannot import. So all of us, we now run to set up industries. I know that our bankers were very small at that time, and but we went very aggressive. Nigeria was producing totally 1.9 million tons, and we started building a plant of 5 million tons at the same time. But all our bankers were very, very supportive, and we carry on with that. But fast forward, what the benefit of that policy is that today you don't have to import cement, you can buy cement. Nigeria, from 2007 to date, Nigeria produces more than 60 million tons of cement.
And is the largest exporter
and
in
now
Africa.
Also, Nigeria is the largest exporter of cement in Africa. Thirdly, as we speak, when we finish our Itori factory, it's 100% for export, and Nigeria will not earn less than $500 million of just exporting cement.
Brilliant. Let's shift focus to the refinery, because you're exporting jet fuel to the United States, correct?
Not only to Asia too.
But to Asia as well?
Asia,
I mean, that's
United
such a feat.
States.
Nigeria is exporting jet fuel to these major economies and fertilizer to the United States?
Yes, actually, 37% of our fertilizer goes to US.
I mean, that's incredible to think about, because it shows what actually can be done. And, you know, this was a mammoth project. We've spoken about how a Herculean task it was for you. And I wonder how it's going from an economics perspective, financial perspective, and whether, looking back now, because it's always, every single year, there's more hindsight. Was it completely worth it? Would you do it again? What's your answer this time round?
Well, I think I will do other things again. But like what I said, when we launched the refinery project, luckily for us, we actually didn't have a full idea of what we are doing. If we knew what we are going to go through, we wouldn't have tried it. But it's good that we didn't know. So that's why. So at least we've been able to, deliver. But it was really tasking, humongous, and I must say that without the support of our bankers, led by Afreximbank, the Access, Zenith, First Bank, it wouldn't have been possible at all.
So, let me ask you this: what's your biggest challenge that you face right now? You know, buying of crude in Nigeria, selling off-takers. What is your biggest issue, and how does that speak to pushing African champions locally, whether you felt that you've had that support? I want you to give me a sense of what that experience is right now.
Well, the issue is that we African champions, we need to understand that we are the only people that can make Africa great.
Yeah.
Nobody will do that for us. So as such, we need to make sure that we concentrate, we believe in our own continent. Of course, there will be ups and downs here and there, but life is all about ups and downs, and sometimes, yes, you succeed, sometimes you don't. But majority of, of us, once you concentrate, you really know what you are doing, you'll be successful. It's difficult, and you don't really expect anybody to hail you. People who made America great, it is only now that people are hailing them. But at the time when they were really pushing, trying to create all the Vanderbilts, the Ford and co, nobody was hailing them at that time. So it is very difficult, for people to hail you while you are doing things. But on hindsight, when you look at it, people will now appreciate. You see, the job of people like us is not about really amassing wealth. It is about creating wealth.
Yeah.
How do you create wealth? You create jobs, you make sure that you expand the economy, other investors will see what you are doing, and they will also join. Like what I keep saying, majority of our own countries, especially in Africa, they keep going around to look for foreign investors. Foreign investors, they just don't come that easy. So what you need to do is to encourage domestic investors. When they are doing well, that is the invitation for international investors.
I want to talk about the global geopolitical upheaval. I'm trying to think of a diplomatic word that, describes what we're seeing globally. And it feels in many ways the African continent, African countries are stuck in the middle of sort of this to and fro of the spheres of influence that are shifting dramatically. The United States wants to ban many African countries from visas and travel. It hasn't been implemented and instituted, but there's a threat. And Nigeria is on that list. Angola just hosted the US-Africa Summit. And Angola is also on the list. And I just wonder what it means for you as an African industrialist, looking at the United States' lack of focus on the continent, and also, frankly, the policy, which is mind-boggling in so many ways. What do you think?
Well, if you look at it today, why do you want to bother going to the US? You should,
the US should want to come to Africa because you've got the resources,
of course,
right?
You should remain at home. We have 60% of the world's arable land.
Yeah.
Agriculture is not cheap. Okay, we have all the mineral sources from gold, lithium, diamonds, everything. We have it here. Yeah. So all what you need to do is to start giving conditions to people. Don't come and take my cocoa and process over there, and you come now and sell the chocolate to me 20 times the cost of that chocolate. So let us make our continent a productive continent. We're the only continent that has actually have growth. If you look at it today, Europe, with respect to them, there's no growth in Europe. Yeah. They've reached a certain distance. So they need Africa to grow.
Do you think that that's a good partner for the continent, the Europeans? I think it's China, is it Russia? Is it Saudi and the UAE? Who's the best partner for the continent right now? Because whether we like it or not, and frankly, there's always been a scramble for Africa's resources. Who's going to capture that part of, getting as many commodities as possible so that they can process locally? The mind shift in Africa is changing, but you still have a scramble, and you can feel it. It is evident in terms of influence. So who's the best partner? I
think now we have a couple of players, but the main Maradona in the field is Afreximbank. If we can have 10 institutions like Afreximbank, it will be totally a different story. Totally a different story. We can actually turn Africa into a heaven in the next 5 years. It doesn't take time.
So
because like what I keep saying, you need to think big, then you grow big. You think small, you never grow.
Okay, but the reality is right now we're still relying on foreign partners. To create more Afreximbanks is going to take some time. So what's your solution?
Well, the solution is that right now people have seen exactly what what they've been doing. We don't expect the international banks to do, but we should also make sure that we have you see, for us to grow, we need a very strong financial institutions. We need to have good manufacturing base. We need to also face agriculture. All the other artificial intelligence and co, they will follow. It's part of the growth. But once we do that, we focus on our own mineral sources. I am telling you, Africa will be totally a different story. You know, people now always come and talk about corruption. Of course, Africa is not the only place that you have corruption. Corruption is all over the place. The only difference is that our corrupt people, when they steal the money, they take it, they fly the money out of the continent. If they continue to invest here, fine, then the economy will grow.
So you're saying if you want to be corrupt, please reinvest that money in Africa?
But yeah? Let me give you an example. I mean, I apologize with respect to maybe countries like Indonesia before. I'm not talking about now. During Suharto, are you saying that there was no corruption? Of course, there was corruption. In all Thailand, corruption everywhere. But they were able to grow just because they did not do what we are doing in Africa, taking the money out of the continent, out of their Asian region.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not saying that I encourage. All what I'm saying is that there's no society, whether it's America, whether it's Europe, everywhere that you think of, there is corruption. But our own is totally different, where now you deprive your country of the money, you deprive your family of the money, because you won't tell your family you've stolen money. So, you deprive everybody, then you now go and hide the money somewhere. When you die, the money will go into the banking system.
This is brilliant. I mean, I've never thought of corruption in this way.
To tell you the truth, okay, like now, somebody was asking me a question. I said some people came to visit our own fertilizer, and I was telling them that, I've said it before in one forum, that in the next 40 months, Africa will not import fertilizer from anywhere. We have a very aggressive trajectory right now. We want to put Dangote Fertiliser to be the largest producer of fertilizer, of urea, bigger and higher than Qatar. And watch me, 40 months. Give me 40 months.
We'll be back on stage discussing that. Okay, I was speaking. The AFCFTA Secretary General Wamkele Mene was telling me the trade finance deficit is as big as the infrastructure deficit that the continent is facing, and we need to tap into that money. So where's it going to come from? I mean, you solved part of this with the corruption. We should be reinvesting. I like that. I don't know how much of a gap that's going to fill, but trade finance is a big issue. Does that worry you?
It doesn't really worry me. That's what I keep talking about. This is not because really I'm here attending Afreximbank something. Because when you look at the vision and also the mission of Afreximbank is to connect all these dots. The trade financing is there. They are not the only ones. There is also Africa Finance Corporation. There are other banks. Once they build, if they are going to raise capital, believe me honestly, today, even if I'm not going to make money, I would rather invest in banks that have the same vision like Afreximbank, because that's the only way that we can develop our continent. Forget about most of these other banks. Their interest is not for Africa to grow. We must make sure we take it as our own focus, as our vision, that look, how do we make Africa great? Africa can only be made great by Africans.
Can I ask you this? With all this narrative that we're seeing out of the US, and if African leaders truly adopt this, let's make Africa great. Let's Africa first. We know that you don't want us to grow, but actually we're not going to accept that. We're not going to sign bad deals anymore. We're not going to accept extraction without actually some kind of processing on the continent. If there's a mind shift change, do you think there'll be global pushback towards the continent? Because there's one thing that's always been certain: the hypocrisy and the way that the African continent, African leaders have been treated, unfortunately, is still pretty much the same, and that's very worrying.
When we start insisting on our minerals to be processed in our continent, you see the rush. Everybody rushed to come down here. Don't take our mineral sources, process them here, create value, generate jobs and growth. And it can happen.
I've got another question. Your refinery, and we were talking backstage about this, and you're doing something very revolutionary that no one's ever done before. And I want you to explain how you're thinking about the supply chain and how it's going to shake things up in Nigeria.
Well, okay, the supply chain, our oil industry here, especially the downstream, has been a mesh with so much of corruption, lack of investment in terms of distribution, and also people are still grappling with other issues. So we came up with something where we are saying that yes, you pay for your product, aviation fuel, gasoline, which is PMS, and diesel. All the telecom companies, the industries, and we are saying, give us a location all over Nigeria, even up to 3,000 kilometers, will deliver to you zero charge. And somebody said, but do you know what it is? I said, yes, we have an idea. I think we're actually pumping back into the economy almost about 1.2 trillion naira. And that's what we are doing. They say it's competition. So we're asking other people to please also come and compete with us.
I don't know if they can. You're also planning to list? Give us the fertilizer business end of the year?
We're going to list the fertilizer this year, and next year I think we'll list the refinery. It is very important for us to list the refinery so that people will not be calling us monopoly. They will now say, yes, we own part of it. So let everybody have shares.
Aliko Dangote, sir, thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for this incredible industrialist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Powering Africa's energy independence. Let's hear it again for Aliko Dangote.